Hey, everybody, welcome back to this live episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Nicole Barker, who's the CEO of Brainstorm Solutions Digital Media. Nicole has helped thousands of women-owned businesses by teaching them to stay authentic in order to attract true clients with ease and without cold outreach. She's also the CEO of a private Facebook group, Wonder Woman Client Attraction, and she's been featured on NBC, CBS, and FOX, among many other publications. Nicole, it's nice to have you here. We were talking briefly before we went on air about how you are helping women not only to grow their online sales, but with their self-assurance. And so I thought we could maybe jump in there because I asked you how much of it is self-assurance, and you said
all of it.
Yeah. So let's start there, because I think and it sounds like you work with predominantly women, but whether you're a woman or a man or whatever pronoun you use, it doesn't really matter. I think a lot of people suffer from that, from not having the courage, the self-assurance, the confidence, all of that. So kind of jump in and talk a little bit about, what you do to kind of, get them aware and raise their level of consciousness when it comes to their own self-assurance.
Yeah, so great to be here, John. And It's something that's so important to talk about, because I think that in business, we get so excited about strategies and the newest, hottest tech. And, it's like we can do text marketing and we can do Facebook ads and we have all these pieces, which is great. And we love all of those tools that we have. But when it comes to being an entrepreneur, when you're working for yourself and there's no parent company to run and come and save you, all of those questions, all of those doubts, all of those fears fall on you. And that's not always easy to manage. So a big part of what I do in my business is really help people to believe in themselves a little bit more each day, so that they can crash through those glass ceilings, so that they can have the self-assurance to be successful at a level where they really feel that deservedness, which is not always easy for a lot of us.
So let's talk about deserving it. I think a lot of times people feel, they kind of cap themselves. They feel like, they deserve X and they can't see themselves doing more, maybe because their parents didn't make more. Maybe because they were told that, right? So how do you raise the level of consciousness, the frequency, the vibration, so people start to realize that they do deserve more, and we all deserve more, and really in many ways have what we want. We just have to do the work to get it.
Yeah. And it really comes down to believing that you deserve it in a way that makes sense to you. I mean, I know that for me, I was previously a business consultant. I've been a business consultant for over 10 years, and I was used to making $10,000 a month. That was normal. And so it was easy for me to reach that level because that's what I thought I was worth. That's what I thought that I deserved. And in order for me to crash through that glass ceiling and get to the next level, I had to believe that I was worth more than that my life was worth more than this, and that the services that I provide and the results that I gave to other people were worth more than what I was charging for them. I think that it's pretty common for us in the beginning to certainly undervalue our skill sets. And so in order to raise that, it really comes from a very simple principle, which it's almost too simple, where you don't believe that it works, right? Is that the way you do one thing is the way that you do all things. And showing up for yourself on a day-to-day basis and keeping the little promises that you make, where it's like, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week this week, or, I'm not going to eat that box of cookies in the cabinet. Those little things that you can do for yourself every single day and say, look, I did do this. They build a strong, positive relationship with your higher self, with your consciousness, where you start to believe that you are worthy. You start to believe that you do what you say you're going to do. You start to trust yourself. And in these small tasks, we move mountains.
Yeah. Let's talk about something. First of all, it's so weird that you said that. I literally just got off a client call before this interview, and I said that exact thing. We were talking about someone. So I haven't heard that in so long, and it's funny that you mentioned it. But I want to, and I agree with you, but I want to talk about and dive into tapping into your higher self, right? So I know what that means, but describe what that means.
So we have ourselves and ourselves, right? It's that voice inside of your head. It's the thing, I think that we hear it probably the most when we're about to do something really stupid, right? And that voice is like, we probably shouldn't do that. And we have that thing where we hear it when we're in danger because it feels like it's a safety mechanism. But really, that voice is with you all the time. That voice is the voice that's telling you, hey, did you think about this? Hey, did you pay attention to that? And in order to strengthen that relationship with that other voice and be able to really listen to it, it's centering yourself. It's grounding yourself. It's slowing down a bit and, breathing in the fresh air, if you will, but also it's listening to that voice because sometimes that voice tells you things that you don't think make sense. And so you discredit them. And when you discredit the silly mechanisms inside of you, you're telling your higher self to just sit down and that you don't need that person. But the truth is, you have all of the answers that you will ever need already inside of you if you can just listen.
Yeah. So, sometimes, some people are so afraid of the unknown when really it's getting to know the knower, right? So raising our level of consciousness and realizing that the same level of consciousness that got us to where we are cannot get us to where we need to be. Now, that being said, that first step or two or three can be scary. And so when you're talking about self-assurance and somebody's, bringing in all their old triggers and their old, all their issues and this and the other, what's the first step to really kind of, building that muscle? Because it does take time to increase self-assurance, increase confidence, and doing all of these things that get many of your clients to their next level.
The first step is always self-awareness. And
always.
It's probably, it's probably the hardest. It's something where we don't realize how often we're lying to ourselves or just not telling ourselves the whole truth. And what I have my clients do is kind of a silly little practice, but every time they lie to themselves and they notice they're lying to themselves, I have them touch their nose. So they touch their nose and they admit it to themselves. I just told myself a lie. Yeah. And then offer a repatterning to that by telling the truth and that piece of when they say, I don't know. This is something that my clients frequently say in the beginning. I don't know what to do. And I have them touch their nose and I say, you don't know what to do yet, because you do in fact know what to do because all of the answers are inside of you. It's just a mechanism of taking the time to be able to believe that in the first place. Hear those actual messages, the voices that come in, and then taking action in alignment with what your higher self says instead of seeking that external validation. So it's pushing the pause button, touch your nose, push the pause button, and really bring the awareness back into yourself. You can do this with breath work. I like to do it with a color exercise. If I touch my nose and I say, what color is I don't know? What color is I don't know? And how can I shift that into a different color that
that's a cool exercise. Yeah. So describe that exercise again. So
if you come in and you have a problem today and you jump on the call with me, I'm going to say to you like, okay, what are we going through? And you're like, well, I just don't know what to do next. Okay. And we're all going to touch our nose about it, right? We're going to touch our nose. I'm going to have that client take a couple deep breaths and just breathe out the anxiety because there's so much tied up in it, right? There's that tightness in your chest, the physicality of anxiety, but also the mental swimming of anxiety. So just a couple breaths to breathe that out. And then I'm going to ask you, what color is I don't know? What color do you see in your head? And they're going to say, oh, well, it's bright green. And I'm going to say, okay, so let's breathe in bright green and let's really feel what that feels like. And let's breathe in bright green so viscerally that the whole room turns bright green, right? And I'll have them do a little visualization exercise with that. And now I'm going to say, okay, now I want you to imagine a color that makes you feel calm and cool and collected and in control of your own emotions. And they're going to say, okay, that's soft blue. That's a sky blue. And I'm like, okay, perfect. Now let's shift that green. Let's watch all the walls, that bright green, shift into this softer sky blue. And then let's breathe that in. Let's breathe and internalize that color so that we start to know that we do know. And it's a very simple exercise, but it repatterns our neurons into really believing that we don't know yet. Yeah. And if we don't know yet, we're not speaking in absolutes anymore. And that opens doors.
I love that. I love that. That's a great exercise. I meditate every day. I've been meditating for decades, and that's a really cool thing to meditate on as well. When you kind of feel something coming in, I appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome. So first step, self-awareness, right? So we know we're aware. Step 2.
So after we start building the awareness, generally things get worse.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, things get worse before they get better sometimes, because you have a new set of lenses that you're looking at things with.
Yep. And so the next step of that is really emotional intelligence, of being able to develop soothing and coping mechanisms that are maybe a little healthier than the ones that you developed when you were in fight or flight, right? Is to be able to say, like, okay, like I'm going to have this coping mechanism that I usually use, where it's like, oh, I have a long day and I'm very stressed out. So at the end of the day, I'm going to have a glass of wine before I go to bed, right? This is a very common thing. We all kind of do it. We take that piece off. But really, it's cheating ourselves out of the experience to learn to self-soothe. The next step after awareness is self-soothing. But of course, we don't have anything to soothe if we're not allowing our emotions to really be felt. So we want to feel into those emotions and sit with them and get comfortable being uncomfortable is really step 2 before we can start moving into those self-soothing practices that get us to the next level.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right. So now let's focus on these 2 steps. Somebody, one of your clients, the people you work with, you get them there, and now you get them to kind of grow their business, their sales. What element?
Okay, so in this process of really being an entrepreneur, it's accepting the fact that your business is you. And that's something when we work in 9 to 5, it's like, leave it at the door, right? There's that whole concept that we can leave it at the door, and what happens at work stays at work, and we can go home. As an entrepreneur, we don't have that luxury, and we shouldn't. Our business should be a reflection of how we are aligned within ourselves.
Right.
And so it's really realizing how your business is directly impacted by how you think and feel every day. So it's creating a sensation inside of you of alignment where you feel really strong, you feel productive, you feel successful, you feel fulfillment.
Yeah.
And when you start to feel that, your business starts to reflect that. And it can't happen the other way. So many people want to wait until they're successful to feel fulfilled. But really, once you start feeling fulfilled, you become successful.
Yeah. Well said. Let's talk about alignment for a minute. I'm a big believer that when you're in alignment, you can take action. When you're not in alignment and you're in an adjustment period, it's very difficult, and you need to figure out what grounds you, what gets you back to center, so you can get back into alignment. It's kind of consistent with you're talking about connecting with your higher self, but talk about how someone can get back into alignment. You mentioned breath work, right? It's always amazing to me. Many people have coaches for many different things. We take 7.3 million breaths a year, but many people don't study breath and the importance of breath and how we can get them back to center and back into alignment. So can you talk a little bit about alignment?
Yeah, alignment is one of those things where you know it when you know it and you don't when you don't kind of thing. Yeah. And so I like to bring awareness to alignment because alignment was what we feel in momentum. If you've ever done any sort of sport or any sort of activity where you're moving, right, whether that's running or swimming or even horseback riding, right, anything that you're in that momentum and that flow, there becomes this moment where you're in the pool and you're doing laps where time just eclipses, it's gone, and you're just in the flow. And that flow, when we feel it physically, we all naturally know what that feels like. Because when we were little kids, you're outside running in a field and time melts away. We can all create that sensation and the memory of that sensation in our head when time went away, when we were in motion. And that's how your brain works too. It's not just your body, it's actually your physical brain working in that flow pattern. For some people, it's writing. For some people, it's reading or drawing, right? There's all of those exercises that we do that puts our mind into a place of flow and alignment. And we can create that and induce that feeling without doing any of those activities, simply by breathing and remembering a time when we felt that physical momentum, we can produce the physical momentum in our brains. And what's really interesting about alignment is that everybody talks about wanting to be in alignment all the time. But really, being out of alignment and the path that it takes to get from stuck to flow is the muscle. So if you're never stuck, then you never build the muscle to actually stay and maintain in momentum and alignment. Yeah. So it's the coming out of it and moving back into it. That transitionary period is the muscle and the strength of itself that produces long-term success and longevity in business and life.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so somebody, so kind of dive into this for me now. Now, so again, you are working with mostly women. You do work with some men as well, but you're working with them on, growing their sales, growing their outreach, right? So just talk a little bit about that.
So once we start doing all of these practices and we really get our life rolling and we start to feel good and successful and fulfilled, then our business allows us the opportunity to start having that feeling reflect into sales and revenue, because we know that money is just reciprocal energy. And so if we're creating that reciprocal energy in our breath work, then we can create that in our alignment in our lives and also our business strategies. So our strategies in themselves can produce alignment because they're our strategies. I teach people how to build strategies that are conducive for their lives, because the fact is, John, your strategies may not work for me because I may not feel in alignment while I'm doing it. Some of us like to run, some of us like to swim, right? So business strategies are the same. So part of the identification process is figuring out what you love and what you like to do. And when you show up in your business, how do you like to show up? How do you like to produce content on social media? Are you a podcast guy? Do you love YouTube? Are you more in flow with video or audio? What kind of learner are you? And when we start really pulling those pieces apart, we can build what I call a unicorn sales funnel so that your sales system is actually in alignment with your personality and the way you like showing up every day. So then work is never work again.
Yeah.
Because just feel it and it's good. And I mean, I never work a day in my life.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Let's rewind for a minute. How, Nicole, does someone like you get into this business? I can tell just by the way you speak and the depth of which you speak. You probably have a cool background. So what got you to today?
I'm a bartender, John. I'm a bartender. I mean, I was on my way to law school and then got caught up in the service industry because I was fascinated by people.
Yeah.
And people behave in a completely different way when they're in that bar environment, when they are their true selves, right? It's very interesting. And looking back and kind of pulling those pieces of my life apart, it's like, this all makes sense, right? Is that I got to see people in their true form. Yeah. And so I studied people in the wild rather than in cages when they're in business, right? So my business reflection is indicative of that time that I spent in the bar studying humans in their true form. And it kind of led me down this cool path because I like analytics. I'm all about the business side of things. I love strategy. High-level strategic development just lights me up inside. Yeah. And so I started consulting in the bar industry, and because that's what I knew. And it's very difficult to work with bar owners because they're drunk all the time. And so when you're in that state of mind, you build up a very strong muscle, John, very strong muscle.
I bet.
So in transitioning to online coaching, where I'm working with business owners who want to be productive, business owners who want to feel great about their lives, business owners who want to be fulfilled and successful, I'm very strong at it because I worked in very difficult conditions for a very long time.
Yeah. It's funny. I started my business coaching business almost 6 years ago. And when I was in college, I waited tables, and I was promoted to bartender, which I couldn't wait to be a bartender. And then I ended up getting a job working at a TV station, and so I worked at that for my last year of college. But I thought waiting tables was one of the greatest things of all time, and I think a lot of great business people come from waiting tables and bartending because it's a really, really hard job and you have to be connected with people all the time. So I love I love that story. All right, Nicole, you ready for a quick speed round?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Favorite book and why?
It's always going to be The Last Unicorn because I'm never going to grow up.
All right, that's a good one. Best piece of wisdom you ever received?
Always do, what's this quote on this one? Always do sober what you said you would do drunk. Okay. That one really taught me some things in my late 20s.
Okay. One piece of advice you'd give people from college, somebody graduating college right now?
You better run. You better run. Now is the time. If you're going to sit on your hands right now, this is not the time to do that. If you are just getting out of school right now, like, you better run. Entry level is not for you. You don't have to earn your way to the top. Just start at the top. You're already there. You're already worth it.
It's great. I love it. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and who your ideal clients are.
Guys, my ideal clients are people who want to take it to the next level. If you feel like you've already got it in your head that this is for you, that you love entrepreneurship, that you want to make something of yourself, you want to crush in through $30,000, $60,000, $100,000 a month, I'm your girl, because I like to take things to the next level. I like really ambitious people. And you can find me in my Facebook group. It's Unicorn Client Attraction Secrets for High Vibe Wonder Women. And don't worry here, kids. Wonder Woman is a mindset, not a gender bias in my world. I have plenty of men in there.
All right, good. All right. Well, Nicole, it was a pleasure getting to know you. I appreciate your time. I love your energy. I love what you're doing. Keep on doing great things. And everybody who's listening, thanks so much. And Nicole, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John.